I had been on drugs for 2 days with a gun in my lap, and I was on my way to kill a guy and a girl who had set me up.
I didn't know the endurance part of it. I didn't know that marriage was supposed to be one time and forever.
Thought, this guy is not from God. And I tried to do everything I possibly could to run you off.
I was able to see what was really behind those things.
Everything that God has done, He's never tried to hurt us. It's always been to give me something better.
God gave me a new beginning.
And when you can truly remember what your life was like before God, then you'll really be appreciative for what it's like with God. Hello, happy New Year, everyone.
Happy body 2026. There it is, 26.
Yes, happy New Year. What a great, great time that we had in 2025. A lot of lessons, a lot of blessings, but we are truly excited about 2026 and what God is going to do. We always start our podcast just letting people know that New Beginnings is sharing with the world how God gives you new beginnings, and what better time than to share
Epic
the new
right now.
because it's New Year's in 2026
2026.
and we are in the new beginnings. So I don't know about y'all, but I know there's people making a lot of New Year's resolutions. I don't know how that's going for you, but
Yeah,
or
there's a
the,
lot of
or the
fasting
Christmas
going on right
food
now.
fasting.
People are fasting right now. They got New Year resolutions already going down.
They're like a few days in.
Yeah, one of the guys at work already told me that he fell off of his New Year resolution. I said, "Dog, already? Next
Yeah.
year."
Yeah, well, it's never too late.
Come on.
Even if it is a few days into the new year, it's
Yeah.
never too late to start over, even especially with God. And that's really what New Beginnings is talking about, how God gives us new beginnings to start this new life with Christ Jesus, and how He truly can transform your lives. And last year, when we started this podcast, we are now in episode 6, we shared about how we got married and how we did not know how to do this marriage thing, and God given us a new beginning to start this new life of marriage and blessings. And we shared a lot about our upbringing and how we were lost and in the world, and we did not know how to do marriage. We didn't know how to build or establish or walk this Christian faith out. And so when we were blessed with this great gift of marriage, um, we shared with the world how you had come from brokenness and incarceration, and I shared how I came from the streets and a lot of brokenness. And when we got married, it was not an easy task because we had so much past hurts, past brokenness, past
Trauma.
traumas, everything. And when we first got married, we can tell them this because this is what New Beginnings is about. I was very angry. I was very bitter. I did not know how to love or honor or respect, and I shared that in our last episode. But what I didn't tell them was right before I had gotten saved and met my pastors, I had been on drugs for 2 days with a gun in my lap, and I was on my way to kill a guy and a girl who had set me up. And that was a lot of the anger that I had inside of me, and how I thought resolving issues um was left for me to resolve and for me to solve and for me to fix. And so even in our relationship, I thought, when we encountered these first battles in our marriage, because I believe that that was the enemy working on trying to bring division and chaos and trying to make this blessing actually into a curse, which we thought we didn't know how to do. And I remember one of the first incidents where I thought, this guy is not from God, and I tried to do everything I possibly could to run you off and to prove to myself that you were like every other man, that you were going to do what every other man did or what my father did to my mom. I figured that I'd get it over and get it over quickly, and let's call it a day and say at least we tried and it didn't work. However, you wouldn't give up and you wouldn't quit, and you never cussed at me. You never called me out of my name as angry as I'm sure I've made you. And I, you know, riding around with a gun in my lap, I knew how to resolve issues with violence. And even in my marriage, I thought, you know, um, that was something that I thought that I needed to resolve in again. But because of God's new beginnings, He taught us how to have unconditional love that His word talks about. He taught us how to love keeps no record, First Corinthians, and love endures all circumstances. And He taught us how to endure many circumstances in this marriage that He had given us because we did not know how to do that. And, you share a lot about, like, even to your dad, so maybe you can share a little bit about that, about how
S-
you got in this new beginning?
So for the new beginnings on our marriage portion was we didn't know each other, so we didn't know how this marriage thing was going to work, but we did both hear that we were supposed to marry each other because God told us. So
Obedience.
because God told us, then I knew whatever would happen, this is who he gave me. And I'm supposed to love her unconditionally. And we were just married. So we didn't live together before during our courting. We didn't sleep together before our courting. We didn't spend a night at each other's houses before all of that. We got to know each other when we started living with each other. And one of my so that's what you were doing? You were trying to run me off that early, that soon?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
and we didn't know each other's triggers. I
we
didn't
didn't
know how
yep.
clean you were. You didn't know if I could cook. We shared that.
Yeah, we should she can cook. She can cook.
But,
Imma see if she can cook.
but we didn't
Uh,
know each other's triggers, the things that made you angry, how to upset you. We didn't know each other's love language. We didn't know, we were like completely blind in 3 months, who you were, who I was,
but
who we were dealing with.
I think the fact that we both knew we didn't know how to do marriage, it was gonna be okay because we would learn it together. I think that was our understanding was, I don't know how to be a husband. I'm assuming you didn't know
Your
a wife.
example that you
The
had.
example that I had before, was just my dad, and he had been married and divorced a couple times, so I didn't really I didn't know the endurance part of it. I didn't know that marriage was supposed to be one time and forever, and that was just I didn't see that. I didn't have that. So, growing up, I knew I wanted my marriage because I loved old people, and I had told you that. I loved old people.
You still do.
I still do, and
You think they're cute every time you, like, we're
they
at the
come in. Oh,
store.
it is like there's a
They're at the
70-year-old dude, and he's like, I'm like, sir, how long have y'all been married? I've been married to this old lady for 100 years. Shut up! You wish you were like. I want to argue with you at 70, talking about we've been together forever. Like
And then you're like, you sit there at the register and you're like, "They're so cute." And I'm
it
like,
is like they still love each other. Like, come on, dog, tell me the secret. Tell me the
lots of
secret.
forgiveness,
Lots of forgiveness,
lots of love.
lots of intimacy, lots of love. Yes, it's
Oh my
that's the
gosh.
same thing. That's why we married. Yes, and but it's a lot of the forgiveness for me. I think I don't know. I hope I'm not skipping, but I think the beginning part was when you showed me that I couldn't knock down the walls that everybody else had put in
Yeah,
front of you
yeah.
with the
The
wrecking
bill,
ball,
yeah.
because that's what I thought I was gonna come do, be the hero, and, "Oh, he's hurt you before, let me get this big old wrecking ball and knock that wall out the way." Well, when I decided I wanted to do that the first time, I didn't realize that I ended up hurting you more because of all the debris that fell, everything that came with it. It wasn't until you told me that, "Can you just love me a little bit?" And you said, like, "Use a chisel instead of a wrecking ball." So for month after month, year after year, situation after situation, I felt we just chiseled away some of those walls. And because we chiseled them away, as opposed to just knocking them down, I was able to see what was really behind those things. And when you would come home frustrated from work, I realized you weren't mad at me. So I shouldn't be offended when you came home frustrated from work. I should listen to why you were frustrated at work. And then I could pour water on the fire as opposed to adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
And it was learning those type of things. I learned that when you were upset, you didn't want to talk about it, that I needed to back up a little bit because if I
You're gonna
did,
get bit.
I was gonna get bit. And I think
And And we learned too, like, so a lot of the things that we did in our past of how we coped and dealt with things was our old nature
Mhm.
part of it and also upbringing. And you
Upbringing
said
had a lot
about
to
your
do with it.
dad and how your dad, and so you didn't have that example. Me, I saw my dad and I didn't have that example. But one thing we did say is that we were gonna do something completely different so that we could show our kids something different.
Yes.
And, a lot of that was, doing this walk together and really putting God wholeheartedly at the center of our marriage and really taking God's word to heart. What does God say for a husband? How is a husband to act to his wife? But how is a wife to act to her husband? And, I should love and honor him, and I should, the way I treat him, a foolish woman builds her house. A foolish woman tears down her own house with her hands.
Mhm.
And I learned that, and that's Proverbs 14:1. And so that was learning to really take that scripture to heart and learning that I didn't want to be foolish and I didn't want to tear my own house down. And I had to take the scriptures biblically and apply those to my life, not to fix you, but to fix me so that I could be this wife that I needed to be instead of focusing on what you're doing and what you need to do. I said, God, work on me and tell me what I need to do. And that's exactly what you did.
That was a big revelation for us, and, like, you helped me with that about because I wanted to bring my old habits. I wanted to bring what I learned. I wanted to bring what I saw from family, from friends, from things like that into our marriage because I think it works over there. And I remember real clear because we were doing you were teaching me about tithing and why we should tithe and the importance of tithing. I'm like, that's cool and all, but I don't think any of my relatives tithe, and I don't see any of my homeboys tithe, and, I don't really know if that's do we have to? Is that something? But because you taught me how to do that, and we weren't gonna take what other people did, but we were gonna do what worked for us
In our
in
marriage,
our marriage,
biblically. Yeah.
and when you told me about tithing and you're like, "This is how we're gonna do it and why we should do it," and stuff like that, and the blessing that came with it for our marriage, you're like, "George, if you" what did you say? "If you can't get through me and you can't and your words aren't working to get to my heart, why don't you write it on our tithing envelope?" And that means God has to answer that for us. I
Yeah.
was like, "What? For real?" So then after one nah, I did bad.
No, but I think, a lot of our stuff and a lot of, the podcast and where this is going, for what we hope that people will see is these life transformation when God truly steps on the scene. And when God stepped in our boat, then that's when our life truly changed and we learned how to do all of this. What a lot of people fail to remember is what your life used to be like before God.
Yeah.
And when you can truly remember what your life was like before God, then you'll really be appreciative for what it's like with God. I'm very appreciative for this life that He's given to me. I mean, through all of our episodes, that we're letting this world in into our personal life of where we've come from and where we are today and what God has done in the process. And I think that that's what the world needs to see of letting God into your boat, letting God into your life, because when you do, He can restore your marriage, He can restore your sanity, He can restore your old nature of being violent and trying to handle things your own way. And, there's times where I get angry, I still get upset, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not that old person
Yeah.
anymore. And I have to remember that of what my life was like way back when,
Yeah.
of everything that we've shared with people of the old people we used to be and who we are today, and that's because of God giving us new beginnings.
Well, 2026, we're in it, we're running already, and our new beginning, one of our new beginnings was my revelation last year was I didn't have to wait until next year to try it again. That
Mm.
God gave me a new beginning And last year I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And if I didn't make it, then it's okay. I'll wait until next month. Well, this year, I think I'm going to do it again. But my new beginning, I didn't realize when I gave my life to Christ, He gave it to me instantly. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to put in an application. I didn't have to wait and get an email back if I'm saved or not. God told me instantly that, okay, I've saved you now. And I
So
feel
good,
like
dude.
that with the new beginnings, it's okay, let's try it again.
Every day.
Every day, I'm gonna
Every day.
give you a new beginning every single day. And you know what? If it was too tough today, when you go to sleep and wake up tomorrow, there'll be a new beginning
Yep.
and we can try it again. And the merciful God that we serve, that's what it is. So this year in 2026, even if you've already even even if you've already given up on your New Year's resolution, guess what? Tomorrow is a new beginning. Even if you're still going through what you and the missus went through last year, guess what? 2026, it's a new beginning. And I think that as you give your life more and more to Christ, as you start coming to, because this is a great time to do it. It's the new year. We have new resolutions. I'm sure the number one resolution across America and families is we're going to church this year.
I think another thing that, for 2026 for me is, it's not so much going to the gym, although that's a plus. Changing your eating habits,
Mm.
great. Um, but how about being committed and consistent to this new beginning and this new life? For me, it's being obedient. My new year, what I really felt like towards the end of the year last year was God truly saying, like, just be obedient to wherever I lead you to do whatever I've done, just like he did when he told us to get married. That was obedience unto the Lord. And, it's a process, and that's what people need to understand, that
Come on.
even with the new year, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's gonna
Yep.
take time, and this new beginning with Christ, it's not gonna happen overnight, but you gotta give yourself grace because he gives you grace. You've gotta give yourself patience because he's patient. You gotta give yourself, understanding because he's understanding. But with God, all things are possible,
Yeah.
and he can change your old nature, he can make you new, and even obedient to him who you marry, the job you have, if especially if it's a new year and you're not happy at that job, or it's I
Pray
wouldn't say
about
if
it.
you're not happy with that spouse, because 'cause I'm not gonna tell you that, that's not true. Uh,
Go pray
but
about that
but
too.
but the new job, the new car, the new place of where you live, all of those things, or God, what do you want me? What do you want me to do? But be obedient to him just like you're obedient to asking him if this is the marriage that he has for us. And so, as we go into this new year, we're excited to know that we are going to be start bringing in our guest of
They're
this
coming.
new beginning of people sharing stories. We've met a lot of people who are going to be our guests in the upcoming episodes of how God has given them a new beginning. So we are going to be having some special guests coming up, and you're going to be able to hear their testimonies and their real life transformations, just like ours, of how God has given them a new beginning and what He's going to do. And um, where people are at in this process, there's some that are barely starting that have been crying out to God that we've gotten to meet, that they grew up in very religious
Yeah, I
homes.
remember.
Their family members or maybe their mom, but then they hit a rough patch in their life, and they hit a rough patch in their life and gave up on Christ. And so we have, people who have hit some rough patches in life,
Yeah.
but still kept on persevering and seeking God.
I kind of want to go back to it though about us being newly married and learning how to do this and taking, watching out for triggers between both of us. And like I said, I learned that I need to let my wife cool down a little bit before we have a conversation because the way I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer. If it's broken, go get my screwdriver. Let me knock it out real quick. If we need to do this, go fix it real quick before you come in and sit down. So for me, my thing was I always wanted to fix things right away. Right away, right away. I would want to fix it.
Yeah.
We'd have an argument or a fellowship, um,
Intense
an
fellowship.
intense fellowship. Then
That just means intense means like it kind of got heated in that kitchen.
yeah, and I would want to fix it. I would want to fix it. Hurry and fix it. Well, I didn't know that that's not the way she operated. She needed to cool down. Um, we're very newly married. This is a new beginning for both of us, and that's not how she responded before we got married. She was still a little used to responding before she got married,
A
and
lot
I
thug life.
a little bit of yeah, she still got thug life in her, you know what I mean? But like it was, that's the way it was, and before we invited people into our lives to help us walk through this new beginning called marriage. And I think this is why it's so relevant. The podcast, the name, the God ordained situation was every one of our situations, every one of our milestones from us just getting married. That was the
Oh,
new
even
beginning.
being parents for the
From us
first
being
time
parents together.
together.
Yes,
Like
because you were a single mom.
we came from a blended family.
Yes.
That was a big tough one for us. Uh I don't want to go into all the details because we are going to share in the next episode because you're gonna have to come back because we have a true story of blended family
Yes.
about raising our kids
Ooh.
and some of the challenges we went through and some of the things and situations that we endured um through being a blended family. And for me, one of them was, raising Roman. Roman is our 21-year-old who's a Marine. He was 6 when we got together,
Yep.
and his dad is the one that passed away that we shared a little bit about. Um, and George accepts Roman and starts to raise him and starts to become his father. And we didn't know how to do that because I was like, "That's my child. Don't talk to my child that way. This is my kid."
Oh,
And, and of course, because we didn't know each other, I didn't know your heart. I didn't know your intentions. I didn't know your motives. And I felt like my kids were my responsibility because these were my 2 boys that I had. And so, but I didn't know how to just kind of let you step in and be the father figure or the male role model in their life. I figured I can raise them, I can do this, and I can teach them. False, lie. I thought that it was my responsibility, like I could teach them how to be a man. So I'm sure there's other women out there that think that they can teach their
there
sons
you
how to
go.
be men and they can't. And they need to know that. But it was through these new beginnings that God had to teach me my place as a mom and as a wife to allow you to be the man because you're the man. And because I did that, my boys are super blessed. I thank God that I let God they were hard lessons, but people couldn't teach me this. God had to teach me. I'll never forget
It's a
where
great lesson.
yeah, 'cause it saved us from having a fight that you
Yes.
weren't gonna win or I wasn't gonna win, but that God won.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, and it was in our first year of marriage, and, one of the girls was watching,
Oh, hold on, for real?
yeah.
You're so
One of the girls one of the girls was watching Roman, and, I went to go get my nails done, and Roman grabbed his little BB gun, went out to the backyard, shot the garage, the
shit.
shed that we had with
Ricochets.
the glass ricochets, busts the window, and she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Roman just, shot his BB gun," and I'm like, "Who?" Like, so we have this big old ordeal. I'm upset, but being the mom that I used to be, I wanted to hurry and cover it up so dad didn't know so Roman wouldn't get in trouble. And there's a story in the Bible of Rebecca when she teaches her son how to manipulate the father. And through, teachings and biblical knowledge, I found out that I didn't want to be Rebecca and teach him how to manipulate his dad. You.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll never forget, I was sitting at the nail place, and then God tells me, like, I hear God's voice, like you heard God's voice. I heard God's voice say, you better step back and let him be the dad. And I was like, so I'll never forget. I got home and me and you go and we're having this conversation. Mind you, Roman's 6 years old. You now have become the dad, and tell them.
No, no, I don't know what to tell her. This is your story. I didn't want to say this one.
Okay, so then Roman, you're gonna have to let this one go again, son. um, but God tells me to let him discipline him. And so I go to George and I'm like, I'm sorry that I hadn't let you do the responsibility, and God has corrected me and checked me on this. And so you have to discipline him. You have to be the father and you have to s- discipline him. And you go,
I just got home from work. I just got home from work. You just got there. She was already a little upset with me because she didn't want me to get Roman the BB gun, but I wanted to get him the BB gun because that was my little buddy, and like this BB gun was great, had a scope on it and everything, and normally he was good because in our back he
responsible.
was very responsible because in our backyard it was nothing but woods past our fence, so he would set it up, and Roman was my little Rambo, and like man, I love Roman, and then he get me in trouble by busting the glass, and I come home and she's like, "You need to discipline them," and I'm like,
What does that mean?
"What's that? I ain't discipline them. You discipline them. That's what you do." She said, "No, you need to discipline them," and I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" She was like, "You need to spank them," and I'm like,
And God told me,
"How?"
He said, if you don't let him discipline him, your
You saying
son is going to, um,
in the street.
he's going to be in the streets. He's going to, just be living wild. And I was like, oh my God. And hearing that, I was like, I know my place. I need to fall in order with God and be in order so that God's blessings can flow in my home, can flow into our family, flow into our children. And we hadn't had our son Caleb yet. And so God was teaching us how to do this new beginning of parenting because we both didn't know how to do it. I thought that if I bought my kids presents, I thought that, when I was out there on drugs and um I was out there partying, I thought that if I just came home and bought them something that it would fix what I had already done.
Mm.
And so I felt like um I had to buy their love.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people getting out of
absolutely,
prison that think that
absolutely.
it can just buy their kids, to make up time.
Yeah,
And there's people that think that, you know, um, if I just do this for my kid, I thought if I bought my son every color of Jordans, then it was good parenting, and it really wasn't. I just thought that that fixed a lot of my issues or being absent. Me partying and not coming home at night was gonna make me a good parent, and it wasn't. And, and so God taught us this new beginning of parenting, and we didn't know how to do that.
so how did it go?
Yeah, so then George has to give Roman a spanking, and he's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, and he's got tears in his eyes and he's crying, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" And you're
Really
like,
wanna spank him. That was my dog, man. Like, that was my boy, and now as a father looking back, truly understanding, like, the one time my pops would say, like, "This is gonna hurt me more, it's gonna hurt." Well, then don't do it, and then, and then I was like, I had to spank him, and then afterwards, he stays inside there, and I walk into the garage where you're at, and I broke. I was like, "This was tough," I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't wanna do that, and you're like, "Well," I was like, "Do I hit him hard or like, well, don't beat him and don't leave marks." I'm like, "What? Come on, man!" Like,
that's before, but this was, remind you, this was before all of the CPS craziness
oh,
and all that.
and then this is us. We
But
this is
yeah,
this is
but I think at that moment, that's when God truly, exposed your heart to me,
yeah.
that you did love my kids and that you wanted the well-being for them, and when I understood that it wasn't a that God telling me that wasn't to hurt me, it was to bless me. And I think that that's something that we can look back on through this whole journey is everything that God has done. He's never tried to hurt us. When he told me to let go of that relationship or, he told me to do this, it's never been to hurt me. It's always been to give me something better, and it's always been to bless us. And so we have to wrap up this one,
Oh, damn.
but we have another, like, the next story about more in tune of some of the things that we encountered through these new beginnings, something that Roman, and I can't tell you all of it right now, but some of y'all, yeah, it's just you just have to wait. You just have to wait because this
They got
is
mad at
like
me last week because, or no, what, a couple episodes back, we went to work and I walked in and one of the guys just threw his arms up like, "Why do you do that?" And I was like, "Well,
yeah, because
it's in the store because they just
there's
finished."
yeah, because there's so many new beginnings that
Yes.
people have to hear of this true life transformation because it only gets better and better. And you
God's not
saw
done.
where
Yeah.
we were at when he stepped into our boat. We were a bunch of mess and a
Yeah.
bunch of junk and a lot of a horrible way of living and being on drugs, and to do something new within us
Yeah.
is for the world to see. So
God's not done giving us new beginnings. He's not done
never.
giving you new beginnings, and your new beginning is every day that you make the decision to walk with Him. So, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't ever want to close up a podcast without giving you the opportunity to invite Jesus into your life and invite him, and I guess invite him into your boat and ask him for 2026 to give you a new beginning. Like, if you're tired of going around in the mountains and going
There
around
you are.
and doing the same insanity
Talk
and
to him.
looking for a different result, but you're not getting anywhere because you're doing it on your own
Help 'em.
and you're trying to do this walk by yourself without allowing God into it,
There it is.
then that's when he can truly give you this new beginning, because you can try to keep on doing this repetitively by yourself and end up in the same situation and the same results. But until you allow him to invite him into your life, Revelations 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock, and if any man hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and dine with him. And all he does is he wants, and he's knocking on the door of your heart, and you have to just open your heart and allow him into your heart and say, God, I want to invite you into my life and I want to make you my Lord and my Savior and I want that new beginning. Well, then that's all you have to do.
Amen.
But don't forget,
Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications.
yeah.
Be ready. We'll see you at 9 o'clock next week again with another episode. But we love you. We appreciate
Tell
you.
them, go get their friends, go tell them to go get their friends to tune in and watch. And this is just an opportunity. If you're wanting God to restore your family or wanting God to, you want to hear how God steps in about parenting, there, I promise you, somebody in your life needs to hear about new
Yes.
beginnings. I
20,
promise you.
2026. This is it. Thank you for joining us this year in 2026. We love you and we'll see you again.
Bye bye.